Have you heard of the saint who survived the Black Plague, was saved by a dog, and even though he was unjustly imprisoned, became one of the most revered saints in the world? Imagine a man who was born into a wealthy family, but gave up everything to help the sick. He traveled to many places, healing people with just a gesture. But when he contracted the disease, he was rejected and isolated in the forest. And this is where his story becomes even more impressive. A dog began bringing him food every day, and this changed everything. In today's video, you'll learn 15 incredible facts about Saint Roch, the patron saint of epidemics, travelers, and dogs. Stay until the end because there's a lot of surprising information about this saint's life that very few people know. 15 patron saint against plagues and epidemics. Saint Roch is one of the most invoked saints when it comes to plagues and epidemics. His name became associated with the cure of contagious diseases because, according to historical reports and popular traditions, he helped treat many victims of the Black Plague that ravaged Europe in the 14th century. Bubonic plague was one of the deadliest diseases of the time, and few people dared to approach the infected. However, Saint Roch not only approached them but also cared for the sick, comforted them, and even managed to heal them. For this reason, throughout history, his devotion grew whenever the world faced major epidemics, such as the Spanish flu and, more recently, the COVID-19 pandemic. Churches and chapels dedicated to him were built in several countries, strengthening his reputation as an intercessor against diseases. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe so you don't miss any curiosities about the saints. 14 noble origins. Saint Roch was born around 1295 in the city of Montpellier, France, into a very rich and influential family. His father, Jean Roch de la Croix, was the governor of the city, and his mother, Labura, also came from a prestigious family. This meant that Roch had a privileged childhood with access to the best education of the time. He could have followed his father's steps into politics or accumulated even more wealth, but from an early age, he showed signs of deep faith. His parents, who were very religious, could not have children and, after years of prayers, received Roch as a blessing. However, the destiny they envisioned for their son was very different from the one he chose for himself. 13 Special birthmark. From birth, Roch had something special, a birthmark in the shape of a red cross on his chest. For his family, this was a divine sign that he had a sacred mission on earth. This mark would become crucial many years later when Roch was unjustly imprisoned. He spent years in prison without revealing his identity, and only after his death did they discover that the prisoner was, in fact, the nobleman who had disappeared. The mark on his chest was the final proof that he was the man whom many considered a saint. Leave your prayer request in the comments so that Saint Roch can intercede for you before God. 12 Pilgrimage journey. When his parents died, Roch made a radical decision. He sold all his wealth, gave the money to the poor, and set off on a pilgrimage to Rome. He wanted to follow the teachings of Jesus literally, dedicating himself to charity and relying solely on divine providence to survive. During this journey, which took him through several cities in Italy, he began caring for the sick and attracting followers. At that time, he was not yet known as a saint, but people already saw him as a man of God, as his presence seemed to bring comfort and healing to those who suffered. 11 Healing miracles. Saint Roch's fame spread quickly because he not only cared for the sick, but many believed he performed miraculous healings. Tradition says that it was enough for him to make the sign of the cross over a sick person for them to recover. In several cities where he passed, hospitals began to empty after his arrival, as patients returned home healed. This made many people start following him, seeking his help for themselves or for sick family members. 10. Contracted the plague. After spending years caring for the sick, Roch eventually contracted the plague himself. He realized he was infected when his body began to show the same sores and symptoms he had seen in many other patients. Knowing that, at that time, people were afraid of the infected and often expelled them from the cities, he decided to retreat into a forest, where he was completely isolated. This moment was a true test of faith, as he had no one to help him and was on the brink of death. 9. The miraculous dog. It was during this period of suffering that one of the most famous episodes of his life occurred. A dog started visiting him every day, bringing him a piece of bread to feed him. In addition, the dog would lick his wounds, and many believed that this helped with the healing and recovery of the saint. This scene became one of the strongest symbols of Saint Roch. That's why he is often depicted next to a dog in images and statues. 8. The dog's owner helped him. The dog wasn't acting alone. Its owner was a nobleman named Gottardo, who noticed that the animal always disappeared with a piece of bread and decided to follow it. Upon finding Roch in that situation, Gottardo was moved and began helping him, offering shelter and care until he was fully recovered. This act transformed his life, as he ended up converting to Christianity and dedicating his life to the faith. 7. He was wrongfully imprisoned. After recovering, Roch decided to return to his hometown Montpellier. However, upon arrival, he was mistaken for a spy and imprisoned by the local authorities. He could have easily identified himself and been released, but he chose silence, accepting his suffering as a form of penance. He spent about 5 years in prison, living in terrible conditions, until he passed away. 6. He was recognized after his death. It was only after his death that it was discovered that the prisoner was the nobleman Roch of Montpellier. How? By the birthmark in the shape of a cross on his chest. When they saw the mark, they realized they had let a holy man die. This caused a great impact on the city, and he was quickly venerated as a saint. 5. Popular canonization. Unlike many saints who went through a long formal canonization process by the Vatican, Saint Roch was spontaneously canonized by the people. This means that as soon as his identity was revealed and his story began to spread, people immediately began venerating him as a saint. Churches were built in his honor, his relics became objects of devotion, and the fame of his miracles quickly spread across Europe. Even without an official decree from the Pope at the time, his sanctity was widely accepted, and his cult became one of the most popular in the Catholic Church, especially during outbreaks of epidemics. Centuries later, the Vatican recognized his veneration and officially established his feast in the liturgical calendar. For protector of travelers and dogs. In addition to being known as a protector against epidemics, Saint Roch is also considered the patron saint of travelers and dogs. He received the title of Protector of Travelers because he spent much of his life on pilgrimage, relying solely on charity and divine providence to sustain himself. For this reason, many people who are about to embark on long journeys ask for his protection before setting off. His connection with dogs comes from the famous episode where a dog saved his life by bringing him bread daily while he was isolated in the forest. Because of this, Saint Roch is often depicted next to a dog, and to this day, many people pray for his intercession when their pets are sick or lost. 3. His symbol is a pilgrim's shell. Those who observe images of Saint Roch may notice an interesting detail. He is always depicted dressed as a pilgrim, holding a staff and wearing a shell attached to his clothing. This shell was a traditional symbol of medieval pilgrims, especially those following the Camino de Santiago. It was used to drink water from rivers and fountains during long journeys. The presence of the shell reinforces the idea of Saint Roch as a man who dedicated his life to the path of faith, without being attached to material wealth. 2. His tomb is in Italy. After his death, the remains of Saint Roch were taken to Venice, where they are kept to this day in the Church of San Rocco. This church became a major pilgrimage center, receiving faithful from around the world who come to pray before his tomb and seek his intercession. In addition to the church, Venice also houses the famous Scuola Grande di San Rocco, a charity institution founded in his honor in the 15th century. The location became an important artistic center, with paintings by Tintoretto depicting episodes from the saint's life. 1. Saint Roch's Day. Saint Roch's liturgical feast is celebrated every year on August 16th, the date chosen to honor his death. In many parts of the world, this day is marked by processions, masses, and special blessings for the sick and pets. In Spain, Portugal, Italy, and Brazil, there are popular festivals dedicated to the saint, many of which include reenactments of his story, the distribution of bread, and even parades with dogs, remembering the animal that helped him. The story of Saint Roch is a true journey of faith, compassion, and miracles. He gave up his wealth to help the sick, faced the plague, survived thanks to a faithful dog, and even after his death, continues to be remembered as a great intercessor against epidemics. If you enjoyed these facts, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating stories like this one. And let us know in the comments, did you already know the story of Saint Roch? See you in the next video.